culture. I was always interested in gardens since I was a kid. I had a great aunt and a grandmother that loved gardening. Now, I loved them. I spent time with them.
Yeah.
So they passed it on to me, and my grandmother told me one day, she said, you know, Phil, that's what she called me, you're never lonely when you're in your garden.
Great.
And I get it, because, you know, I look at certain things, and it's not that the plants are keeping me company, but certain things will remind me of my grandmother. Some things will remind me of a trip. There's a story that only you know. It's a real private thing.
Yeah, yeah. It's also beautiful, colorful, peaceful, calming. People are getting it. It's never been bigger. No, it's ironic. With all the technology that's going on, people are saying, I got to unplug. I'm going to go out in the garden. Spend some time in the garden. It's like meditation, isn't it?
It's a real wonderful thing. And I love these Japanese iris. When I grew up, we had Louisiana iris down in Mississippi. This is like Louisiana iris in that it will grow in a wet area, but the blooms are a lot larger and they're taller. This is a great representation of what you can expect, but your blooms will be up to 10 inches across.
Okay.
You will find Japanese iris for sale at nurseries, but you will never find this collection. You might find one or two. We've got this huge collection for you. These will grow in a wet area, as I mentioned, but also in regular garden soil. When they're blooming, nobody notices anything else in the garden, because that's all you can notice is how spectacular these are.
And you know who notices these as well? Because one of God's greatest creations, here come the butterflies, right?
Yeah, the butterflies.
Why do they're just completely attractive?
Well, they look like gigantic landing pads, because unlike other irises, these blooms are flat across the top. And you know Janice Marie, our friend here.
She's a sweetheart.
I love Janice, and when these are blooming, she comes over to my house and she gets on a ladder so she can shoot down on the pictures. And when she shoots down on that blue and purple one, it literally looks like a motif from one of the Egyptian tombs.
Wow.
Because it's that kind of gorgeous. If you've got ornamental grasses, it's a beautiful addition to that, because it's got the graceful flow of the foliage in the edge of a pathway where the drain comes down and dumps out. You know how wet that is and nothing will grow there? This will thrive in that situation.
And I will tell you, as you take a look at the size of these, they're usually going to grow from 2 to 3 feet tall. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. This would go beautifully with the gorgeous colors of today's special value.
It's just a great thing to have in the edge of the pathway, because you need the vertical elements too. A lot of things are soft and pretty, but this is the vertical element, and the foliage turns a beautiful yellow. There's the geisha girl. It looks like a royal thumbprint, but again, the blooms up to 10 inches across. Nobody will have anything like this. I took a bunch over to Sandra Bennett's house, because down about behind her house is really wet. She said, what can I grow here? It's so wet. And I said, the Japanese iris. And the pink lady, you never see the pink ones for sale in the store. And I just love the foliage and the blooms like that. It's completely otherworldly. It's art. It really is nature's art. And their Shogun, the bright burgundy with that yellow epaulet down in the center. I mean, you just see that. It's the detail. It's all about the detail. We're choosing the best plants. There are a lot of Japanese iris out there, but not many of them that are as big and as vibrant as this collection. Temple Bells, the perfect cornflower blue. If you like the blue flowers, and by the way, there aren't many of them, this is a good way to go. They come back every single year. These are perennial.
Oh, look at that. That's my favorite.
Gracias, because it's got that white eye to the center. And we talked about the gardenia being the white flower. It draws your eye in. Anything that's got the white in it comes in.
And that's this one right here?
Exactly.
Man.
We're sending you out big bare root ones. These are going to grow like crazy this year. Plant it like this, in any type of garden soil. But if you've got an area that is so wet, everything has rotted and fallen apart, plant it there, because this will make that area one of the prettiest areas of your garden.
Interesting. So sometimes too much water can kill the plant.
But this
We've had that happen.
This one doesn't mind. I tell you, off the edge of my driveway, the water would come down and it would pond in this one area.
Right.
And I put some of those down there. You know what I did? I added some soil way back behind it so I would make the bog even bigger. So I wanted the wet, difficult area to be bigger so I could plant more of the Japanese iris.
And they just popped, huh?
15 different ones in there now.
Oh, no kidding.
And when they're blooming, they're right beside the driveway. I drive in, I see that. Rather than looking over the area where everything rotted, I'm looking at the Japanese iris, and it looks like the bulrushes. I'm just know little baby Moses is going to be in there somewhere.
These, by the way, are perennials. Baby Moses.
I'd look.
Wow, you're jumping around with some metaphors tonight. That is a perennial as well, right, Philip?
Comes back every single year, and one of the longest lived perennials that we offer. You know how daylilies last forever and forever and forever? The Japanese iris is one of those heirloom perennials that last forever too. Some perennials have short lives. This one has a very long life. Some trees have short lives, you know, like maples have short lives, except for the Japanese maple.
Which lasts a long time.
Right, you've got to pick the right plant, and that's what we've done. We put together what I consider to be the premier collection of Japanese iris, and nobody is going to have these at all. And you can turn a difficult area into a jewel box.
Now, you mentioned as you're shopping right now, $31.92. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these, all of these colors. You mentioned the wet or the dry.
Yes.
What about the various areas in the country?
Every part of the country.
No problem.
They're absolutely happy in every part of the country, tough as nails. Down in my wet area too, I planted a ball cypress because it likes the wet too. You can plant willows down in that area too. You can also grow these directly in a pond. What I do is I put the pots where they're just up to the top. Say if you've got a goldfish pond, these go directly in the pond and will grow directly in that water. Who knew? But it's just a great, great look. So even if you've got just a little vat with water lilies in it, add this to it for the vertical element. Everything doesn't have to be low. You got to have some pow. Like this.
And this does. Again, this is going to be 2 to 3 feet tall. What's the actual bloom time then? How long am I going to get these flowers?
These will bloom in early June.
Early June.
That's when they bloom for me. I call this a bridge plant. The spring plants have finished, and the summer plants have really not gotten going yet. These bloom, and I think that's one of the reasons you notice them so much. They fill that gap when nothing else is carrying on, and they do it beautifully.
And they steal the show when they do.
They absolutely steal the show. This is not something that has to bloom all the time to be remembered. It's one of those special, special things that you need in your garden. You got to have something that other people don't have that pops up. When these are blooming, nothing else in the neighborhood will be blooming except for these. If you've got a wet area in the front, put it there and drive everybody crazy.
And 43448 with a gotta go guarantee. We're going to ship it to you exactly when you're supposed to get it.
Exactly.
$31.92. We literally only have 29 minutes to go in the show. We started off this big 24-hour event. It's called Spring Fever. Started off with a bang.
Yes.
And something called